if the book gets out, he's broken the law. And I would think that he would have criminal problems. I hope so.
This is the book that Donald Trump tried to prevent Americans from reading. John Bolton's far from kind assessment of Donald Trump's presidency.
That's highly classified information. This guy's writing things about conversations, and maybe he's not telling the truth. He's been known not to tell the truth. A lot.
The book is filled with accusations against Trump, calling the president, quote, stunningly uninformed, unfit for office, and a danger to the republic. Once an ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton also served 3 previous American presidents.
You are going to do a fantastic job, and I appreciate you joining.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
On April 9th, 2018, Bolton became Donald Trump's 3rd national security advisor in 15 months. In his book, Bolton says he quickly saw a president who only cared about re-election, adding that, quote, obstruction of justice was a way of life, and that Trump gave, quote, personal favors to dictators he liked. Bolton's book has done the unheard of in Washington. He's managed to unite both Republicans and Democrats in their anger.
My take on him, it's big lie Bolton, it's book deal Bolton. He's doing it for the money, that's pretty clear.
He chose royalty over patriotism, and so he's going to make money off of his book, I guess.
We also have questions of our own about Trump's relationship with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the arrest of Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou. I spoke with Ambassador John Bolton earlier this afternoon. Ambassador, thank you for taking time for us today. I wanted to start, if I could, with the White House briefing yesterday, because the press secretary told reporters that President Trump had never been briefed about these reports of Russian bounties being paid to the Taliban to kill U.S. or coalition troops. Can you set the record straight for us, please?
Well, I can't really comment on news reports that have come out about my briefing the president. What I think I can say is that this possible threat by the Russians is something that needs to be taken seriously if the information bears out. The Russians want the U.S. and coalition forces out of Afghanistan, out of Iraq, out of Syria, out of Eastern and Central Europe if they can get away with it, out of Ukraine, out of a lot of places. And a direct threat to American service members and obviously to others in the coalition is something that really one cannot blink at. Now, if evaluation of information has to take place, great, let's have the evaluation, but let's also act on it if it turns out to be serious.
Did you ever brief the president on it?
You know, I just, one day I'll say no comment, and the press will take that to mean no comment. I'll be a happy man.
Is it credible, though, that the president would not know this?
It's credible the president wouldn't know a lot of things. I try and explain in the book. It, I'm sure, is mystifying to many people, but the president misses a lot of things. He's not, as they say, a detail person. Maybe that's the way he was successful at real estate. I don't think it's the way a president should behave in important international geostrategic affairs, but that's the way he does things.
In the book, you know, it's pretty striking to hear you talk about how Trump is, in your estimation, a danger to the republic. What was the moment where you felt that first?
Well, it was a growing sensation. I didn't have one particular eureka moment. It was sort of a long succession of disappointments and growing concern. I'm very confident, by the way, that the United States can survive a one-term Trump presidency. I think we can correct the damage that's been done. But certainly in the national security field, where I'm concerned, I think the damage has been considerable, although reparable. I just don't want to see more happening. This will be, by the way, the first time in my adult life that I will not vote for a Republican for president.
I'm interested, as a Canadian, you do write about Canada and here, and you particularly write about the arrest of Meng Wanzhou. I'm curious, why was Canada asked to arrest her and not other countries that also have extradition treaties with the United States?
Well, part of the dilemma for any law enforcement exercise is you have to make sure your case is ripe before you try and arrest somebody. So I think the logistics simply were that at the time the decision was made, it was learned that she was going to get on a flight to Vancouver, and that's when the request for extradition was made.
I understand that. I am curious, though. I have copies of her passport here. The arrest was sworn and sealed on August 22nd. She was picked up in Canada in December. But there are stamps in this passport between that time for the UK, for France, for Belgium. All these countries have extradition treaties with the United States.
You know, I can't answer the question. It's not something that I would normally be familiar with in any case. It wasn't because we were trying to put some burden on Canada. Being an alumnus of the Justice Department myself, I know a lot of these things are purely logistical. This is not a political decision by the Justice Department.
I think you can appreciate why I'm asking, though, because from this side of the border, there is, I suppose, a perception that Canada might have been played as the country most likely to be compliant.
I'd have to believe that that's a conspiracy theory. I wouldn't look at it that way at all.
You further in the book, I think page 308, you write about Mike Pence, Pompeo, yourself pressuring Trudeau to stand firm on the extradition. What did that look like?
Well, I don't think we pressured him at all. I think he was quite rightly concerned that China had taken custody of 2 Canadian citizens for no reason at all. In fact, I think arrested one of them in the middle of the night, broke into his apartment. And that's an example, and this was certainly an argument that I made in conversations with Canadians and others. If this is the way China behaves now, imagine how they'll behave when they become even more powerful. Obviously, they were picking on Canada rather than arresting American citizens. I don't consider that pressuring Canada. I thought it was reassuring Canada we weren't going to let the Chinese get away with this.
And so it's 560 plus days now that Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig have been in detention. When you said that the matter of their detention would be brought up at every opportunity, what did you actually do?
The State Department has been raising it, and it's been spoken of publicly in the administration, including after I left. Meng has been fighting her extradition very vigorously. That has certainly dragged things out for a long period of time. But I think it would be a mistake to say that somehow there's an equivalency between arresting somebody for committing massive financial fraud for violation of the American sanctions against Iran versus China just arbitrarily arresting 2 Canadian citizens for no reason whatever.
You know, as a Canadian, I'm also an American, but as a Canadian, you see that Prime Minister Trudeau seems to go out of his way to not upset the president. Has that been noticed at all?
Well, I think it's not easy for any foreign leader, especially from American allies, to deal with this anomalous president. And they've each behaved in their own ways. And I think Prime Minister Trudeau has behaved in a responsible fashion.
But is the United States at this point a reliable ally for Canada under this president?
Look, the fundamental relations between 2 countries really do transcend the vagaries even of an election of a national leader. And that's why I think that the negative consequences caused by the Trump presidency can be overcome. The position of the United States in the world has not fundamentally changed. Those who are anti-American will pick on Trump as an example of America in decline, and they would be wrong.
You have a unique window into the operations of this administration. Why should Canada put its citizens, its trade at risk for a country and a leader who seems unwilling to return the favor?
Look, if you want to disavow the United States, if you want to leave NATO, if you want to get rid of our protection militarily, please feel free to go ahead and do it. Canada can do that if that's what you want. The issue here in dealing with China is whether free countries will stand together against this authoritarian threat or they won't. We're going to stick, I hope, with a consistent policy of trying to prevent China from taking advantage of its economic clout, which is what it's trying to do now in this present controversy.
How does Canada get its Canadians home from China at this point?
Look, I think we all want to get them home as soon as possible. America's had its share of hostages around the world as well. If you don't like it, ma'am, you're free to go ally with China. If that's what you think your country wants to do, think about that long and hard.
Sorry, I'm actually asking for some analysis on what the right approach might be.
You've got to take a long-term perspective. What the Chinese have done is outrageous. There's no question about it. What do you think they will do if you give in to that behavior? Let me ask you a question.
Well, that's the advantage of sitting where I am right now, is I'm asking you for analysis. I think Canadians feel like they're out of good ideas at this point, and they're looking for some.
Persistence, persistence, persistence.
Thank you for your time. I hope we didn't take too much of it.